Video talking to Mr. Arun Shourie for the playlist Going Strong. Now, you have written substantially about the matters in the court, the way the courts function, and two books apart from others where you 2001 is the courts and their judgments, and about 17 years later came the second book, Anita Gets Bail, What Are Our Courts Doing, 2018. And I'd like to ask you, Arun, there has been a concerted attack on the judiciary. This is presently from the government and in Modi too. And speaking to Karan Thapar earlier this year, you had said that judiciary must not give in on any issue. Now, how can the Supreme Court show its seriousness in ensuring that its judgments are adhered, implemented and accepted?
There is the power of contempt. Why are they not using it? You see, when the judgment is, let's take any matter, sedition.
There is a reluctance within that the power of contempt, whether it is civil or criminal contempt, should be sparingly used.
But it should be used sometime. When is it that it has been used last time? Tell me.
They have used it against Markande Karju, Justice Karju
but that is only because of some speech. But against the executive, we are talking about the executive. That's the one that has to implement your judgments, most of all. If an ordinary citizen does not obey the judgment of the Supreme Court, the ripple effect is quite small. When the government defies your judgment, the ripple effect is very large.
Well, they have done it, say the NJSC, the law was struck down. But you are right in a way that contempt power per se for not following a judicial decision has not been used in a visible manner to the visible effect.
For instance, everybody keeps complaining about this appointment of judges. There are rulings, there are judgments as to what would happen when the collegium returns the nomination. And the government does not, the government sits on it. Why don't you haul up the law minister and the law secretary?
Perhaps there is a little reluctance on the part of judiciary that we are getting too much into executive action.
How? Then don't make the recommendation. Then you are being told, you are holding your, if your reluctance is such that you cannot face up, you do not want your judgments to be implemented, then why give the judgment? And all these cars and flags and all this, your honor. You are to enforce the constitution and the law, and not just the law which is enacted, but the law which conforms to the constitution. Otherwise, I'll give you an instance on environment. If you read the judgments of several of these judges, big speeches, and they are routinely disregarded especially by the government. And you do nothing? No, I'll give you, just you've asked a question, I'll give you examples. The use of caste for reservation, I mentioned that. In the constitution, it is specifically social and economic backwardness, not castes. The only time the word caste is used is for scheduled castes. But now everything is by caste. Reservations have become by caste and the courts have done nothing.
You see, so my question I'd like to ask you, because of the dilemma that Supreme Court decides matter when it is approached. Now say, take today's paper, they say they have asked that why is the governor sitting over bill for 3 years? Now where the constitution, you see, one of the organs of the government is not doing its job, whether it is the executive or the parliament. Now in that scenario, what do you expect from the judiciary, which has its own problems and challenges?
So firstly, attend to your own problems and challenges, no doubt about that. But that does not mean that you will not do your other duty. And the question is not just about a governor, and you're not, and the courts have taken suo motu notice when it suited them or when they thought it was good. Therefore, that's no excuse. Second is that there are cases which do not involve, which do not require that that vigilance. They have been brought to your notice. I can give you an example in the case of the sedition law.
Yes, sedition law, yes.
A person, I mean, sedition law is used for everything. We have cases that so and so was driving a motorcycle so loud that it disturbed the sleep of the infant child of my sister. Sedition case, Bangalore. Fight in a pub with a sedition case between students. Such case, I mean, I can give you a list of 20 such cases. They have been brought to the court. The court has not found time to look at them. A simple thing would be, and this was a petition of common cause itself, in which it was urged that every case of sedition should be certified by the IG of the state. To my personal satisfaction, it is a case involving that. And that satisfaction must be reported to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court can ask Article 14, it can ask the juniors or 3 seniors to process all these and every month give them a 2-page summary. And anybody violating that, you go after him. Make an example. But when you never do it, then people say, "Yaar, wo lecture de rahe, unko dene do, tumhe kya pada hai?" That's what the
Now, why does, I would like to know from you that the judiciary, they are wise men and they are also the men of the world. They have gone through, whether it is by promotion or why is this not happening? Or where would you say that that's a good example, whether it is the US Supreme Court or it is the...
No, sir, the US Supreme Court is obeyed, and we do not know the current character of the US Supreme Court. Look at Clarence Thomas and what is being revealed about him and that other judge, all of whom were great ethics fellows, and they were taking all sorts of holidays through a billionaire. So I don't know what the US Supreme Court today, but these are conventions in society. You see, I'll give you an example. In the British system, I mean, my good friend Ashok Desai once told me that Justice Bingham,
former Attorney General,
yes, he once asked Bingham, he was the Lord Chief Justice, he said, "What would you do if a lawyer lied to you?" So Bingham was surprised. "You mean, lied? You mean he doesn't know the law and he said something?" He said, "No, he knows the law, but he lied to you." He said, "What, in the statement of facts, that he forgot a fact?" No, he knows what is the truth, but he told you something else.
Deliberately.
He said, "How is that possible? We will be having lunch together in the dining room after this, after the hearing. How will he look me in the eye? And everybody will get to know that he lied. How is it possible?" He couldn't believe it. Why was it? Not because of law, but because convention and a system of honor. Now here, because those conventions are not solidified, because we feel no dishonor in lying, therefore some chabuk has to be used. And
now, why is this chabuk not being used? Is it because of incompetence, indifference? What do you think are the reasons?
No, the rationalization is what you said. They are men of the world.
Yes.
That no, we can't get into confrontation. You know, we used to have a teacher, a very famous teacher in the 1960s and 50s called Dr. K.N. Raj.
Yes.
He was an economist. He said, you know, it is very difficult to be an economist in India. Everybody comes to you and says, "Doctor Sahab, bataiye kiya kya jaye?" He said, "You tax agricultural income." He says, "It's a very good idea, but for political reasons we can't do it." He said, okay, you can't tax agricultural income, then collect the taxes on non-agricultural income. Collect them, whatever you levy. It's a brilliant idea, but for administrative reasons, we can't do it. He said, okay, forget taxes. Get the people to come to work on time. He says, it's a brilliant idea, but for historical reasons, we can't do it. He said, okay, let them come to work at any time they like. But when they come, they must work fully. This is a brilliant idea, but for cultural reasons, we can't do it. So he said, if you can't tax agricultural income for political reasons, if you can't collect taxes on non-agricultural income for administrative reasons, if you can't get people to come to work on time for historical reasons, if you can't make them work whenever they come for cultural reasons, you can't have economic development for obvious reasons. So, the same thing about us. If you are all the time going to be worried, एक कपलेट है, किसी आने वाले तूफान का रोना रोकर ना खुदा ने मुझे साहिल पे डुबोना चाहा.
बहुत अच्छा.
क्या अगर मैं कॉम्पिटेंट पावर यूज करूंगा, उससे फिर वो मिनिस्टर खफा हो जाएगा, सरकार खफा हो जाएगी, कल जुडिशियल रिपेयर के लिए, कोर्ट के रिपेयर के लिए पैसे नहीं मिलेंगे. अगर आप ऐसे सोचेंगे तो फिर जहां हो वहीं रहोगे. पर कभी तो टेस्ट कीजिए, कभी तो टेस्ट कीजिए.
Deliberate effort has to be made,
and
concerted, yes.
And then work on the consequences and let the people see that because you did such and such a thing, the executive is reacting in such and such a way, whether it is the central or the state government.
Right.
आप हर एक से डरे बैठे हो. State governments के बारे में, how many times are the state governments adhering to your law, to your judgments? We can show you when they are not, but you don't act. So हर एक से डर रहे हो और फिर चाहते हो कि जी हम आपको बहुत बड़ा समझें.
Yes, the two things can't coexist. Yes. Thanks. And in the next video in Hindi, we would talk about the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh.